Hi there, good evening. Welcome to State of Affairs here on GHOne Television. I am Francis Aben. This week has been very, very busy on many fronts. The economy, the matter of the fight against illegal mining has been topical in the major news streams from Monday throughout till even today. This evening, we want to crystallize these two matters and speak to leadership on actions being taken and some further explanation beyond what we've already heard in the general news space. And I'll introduce my guest to you tonight in a minute. But remember, the show State of Affairs is brought to you in association with MTN. MTN is everywhere you go, and Kabbalah Milk. And speaking of MTN, you don't need to end your call because you run out of credit, or stop browsing or closing that business deal because you run out of data. MTN has made it possible for you to keep your conversations going even if you run out of airtime, or even close that business deal even if you run out of data. Kind courtesy MTN Extra Time. By dialing *506#, you get to borrow credit to be able to make that call, or to also continue browsing with some extra data just to close the deal. And then when you have the time, you can reload and then also repay. So that's from MTN. MTN is everywhere you go. You can continue browsing and your conversation don't need to end because you've run out of data or airtime. MTN is everywhere you go. Also, if you're a parent watching us tonight, why do you think milk is important in a family's meal? I'll tell you what, especially for adults and children. One key thing: development, essential nutrients needed for enhancing our health and our growth. And Kabbalah milk is fortified with a unique blend of essential vitamins called Vita-Rich. Now, Vita-Rich has vitamins good for eyesight development, fighting infections, building strong bones and teeth, as well as B9 for brain development. So help your loved ones support their growth with Kabbalah milk, which contains Vita-Rich in their meals. Kabbalah is also available in 5 delicious flavors and available in a shop near you. Kabbalah is our milk. Also, solid partnership has been made easy with Star Life Assurance. You can get insurance anytime, anywhere when you dial *7373# or download the MyStar mobile app. With *7373# and the MyStar app, you can buy and manage policies, pay premiums and apply for claims, and a lot more. Sign up today for insurance at your convenience with Star Life, your solid partner for life. They've all made it possible for us to bring you State of Affairs tonight here on GHOne Television. So my guest tonight is the Deputy Minister for Information, the Honorable Fatima Abubakar. Hello, good evening to you. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Francis.
I know it's been quite a busy week with the program in Kumasi relative to meeting the chiefs and the MMDCEs as we tackle the illegal mining, and also the negotiations for the economy and also with the IMF have been two key matters. Tonight, we want us to break down these two matters and get our viewers to understand what's going on and get some key questions answered. So thank you for making time to join us.
Thanks for having me.
I guess we can start with the fight against illegal mining. This week, the President and the Lands Minister and quite a big delegation for government were in Kumasi, meeting the National House of Chiefs and also the MMDCE. So there were two separate meetings. Before we dig into the details, why did the President find it important to have these two key meetings in the Ashanti regional capital?
Thank you, and good evening to you and your cherished viewers. I believe the President's meeting is to reiterate the fact that the President Akufo-Addo-led government believes the fight against Galamsey is not a fight that will be won by an individual or one institution only, but it's a fight that requires cooperation and collaboration with all stakeholders, including the Ghanaian public, so that if by consensus we say that on a scale, if you put galamsey or illegal mining on one side and put all the implications of illegal mining, it could be medical, it could be destruction of lands, it could be destruction of our water bodies, forest reserves, among others, other complications, long-term financial implications on other sectors like cocoa, among others. If you put both on a scale, we are of the firm belief that it will be better if we protect the environment. It will be better if there is regulation so that other sectors will not be affected in the name of digging for gold from the surface of the earth or underground. And most importantly, about the fact that time and time again, we have tried to separate what people think this government is fighting. Government is not against small-scale mining. Government is against illegal mining. So if someone makes a sweeping statement, because illegal mining is quite peculiar with small-scale mining industry, then they will say that, okay, government doesn't want anybody to engage in small-scale mining. But that is a huge industry. We are talking about an industry of some estimated 1 million Ghanaians. If 1 million Ghanaians depend on an industry for their livelihood, I mean, that's huge. Look at how many sectors have capacity to absorb that number of people. But it is also a fact that about 50% of the people within the small-scale mining industry practice illegal mining. And if that is anything to go by, for the records, it means some 500,000 Ghanaians and their associates are involved in this venture. It is also important to state that when we talk about illegal mining, it has to do with regulation, but it also has to do with compliance. Because regulation, to the extent that if pre-colonial era, they were saying that, oh, Ghana, Gold Coast. So there is that assumption that we are on a rich land, which we all accept we are on a rich land. So people are of the belief that, you know what, you may not even have to test the soil. Everywhere you dig, you are likely to find gold. So regulation comes in where it is important for the state agency or institutions that are mandated to grant licenses to do so upon, meeting certain applicants, meeting certain criteria. Because if there is no regulation, one day your EIB building, people will come and dig under it because there is gold. They will dig under the Kwame Nkrumah Mausoleum, maybe Jubilee House, or maybe Castle, in search of gold. And we cannot allow that to happen and get anybody indiscriminately destroying the land. So that is why regulation is good. There is another aspect of the illegality which has to do with compliance. Someone has been given a concession, they have gone through the proper channel to, acquire license for a particular concession, which is on record, maybe out of greed or anything. They enjoy the work to the extent that they go beyond what is granted and, just way off into other communities or other areas, or even deceive community members by holding one paper for a particular concession and going around other communities and just digging in the name of I'm holding paper, especially among a rural population that you cannot be so sure that even if it has to do with leadership, they will have that technical ability or eye to look at your cadastral plan and to look at your documentation and confirm that, oh, this is meant for this place and not that place. So our work is cut out. But it is also the case that under successive governments, a lot of operations have happened. Under this government, there's been Operation Halt, Halt 2, and so on and so forth. Stop. Yes, and I mentioned earlier that a week ago, we were at Amansia South districts, Datono, Takrase, Mansoe Dubia, and neighboring communities to look at the work that the security agencies are doing there. And for the records, even within this regime, there's been times that the war has been waged, they've been able to clear the sites where this is happening. There's been restoration of, the riverbeds and river bodies to the extent that there has been clear signs that, okay, even turbidity has improved. But if the communities, if at the base level, people don't buy into the idea that we can't mine indiscriminately, we can't mine along the river banks, we cannot mine somewhere else, but use these water holes and other things to, you know, just pipe our way through the riverbeds and then just dispose of some chemicals and other things into the river, then it's a problem, because you will organize an operation, send a whole regiment from Accra to some communities where you think the practice is widespread. They will go and work, they will achieve results, it will come on TV, radio, they will clap for us. But because of financial considerations and other things, they cannot stay in the bushes forever. If the community does not accept or own it, they will come back to Accra, and then we are back to zero.
To square one. So that leads me to a few questions. The president, in the build-up to the 2016 elections, made the matter of illegal mining a key agenda that, when he comes into power, is something that he will deal with. Now, when he came in, we saw the start. We saw the program as it was rolled out, drones that were bought, inter-ministerial committee that was set up. There were issues that came up, even at that point, but we had seen some progress. Will I be right in saying that what we're seeing now is like a reboot of that fight, because the government concedes in the last 2 to 3 years a certain loss or a certain backdrop or almost failure in being able to sustain this fight against galamsey?
I laid the foundation to what we were coming to say.
Yes.
That even if you embark on the operations and you don't have consensus, there is no support across board. We are talking about money and livelihood. And at least I don't know much about galamsey income, or how much in terms of, I don't have any access to any research document that talks about figures, amounts. But this is an industry which contributes significantly to, our gold export. So at least I have clarity as to how much is coming out of there. Because in 2018 alone, the small-scale mining industry contributed 43% to our total gold production as a country. And Ghana is one of the leading producers of gold. So 43% is no joke. In 2019, the industry contributed 36%, and in 2020, 31%. So clearly, if we, in terms of amounts, specific figures, we may not be able to mention, you look at these statistics and know that we are talking about a lot of money in the field. And when it has to do with livelihood, it is not going to be an event that you will tell people that stop today and then they will say, okay, I'm stopping and going home. Matters that border on money and livelihood, even when there are laws regulating it, you realize that they are observed more in breach than in compliance. So it borders on looking at multiple angles and solutions to the problem, of course, including prosecution. Because you get some people that, upon education and sensitization, when you roll out some programs for them, they would appreciate the issues and then go to it. And there are some people who won't, so you have to apply force. And that is why we have all these operations happening where they are seizing assets and then burning some of them and decommissioning some of them, among others. So it is a fight that I will say, based on your question, that it is not an event, it is a process. Successive governments have tried to fight it. But if we are able to depoliticize the war against galamsey and able to move the conversation to the actual issues, and when we get platforms like this to focus on educating the Ghanaian public and getting the public buy-in, then I believe we will succeed.
Okay. Now, in that same spirit, in trying to garner this national consensus, are there some realities that we must confront? And I'll ask them in a series of questions. In the government's analysis, have they established that political actors, MMDCEs, security operatives, have been found to be complicit in this illegal mining enterprise and have been identified and dealt with to give the Ghanaian population who want to come on board the confidence that whoever is caught in this venture will be dealt with regardless of size, position, or rank?
At the district level, even at the High Court level, there are a lot of galamsey issues that are being pursued, including that involving Ghanaians and foreigners. These are issues that will be based on evidence that people have gathered and being able to put together a case file or a brief so that upon advice of the AG they can pursue such an action, or even by the police at the district level. The reality is also that we have to look at the conversation on two fronts. Sometimes there can be speculation that, you know, this galamsey fight has to do with big people. Some big people are involved. Big people are involved. When you say big people, you haven't said anything. Big people can be anybody. Francis, you are a big man. You wield influence. You're on TV. You get the point. A priest or imam may be a big person. A chief or traditional ruler may be a big person. An assemblyman, a DCE, a political party activist. So the definition of big person is not even peculiar to some particular class. So the most important thing is that if we're able to build that consensus and we are able to pinpoint individuals who are complicit, then it helps with the fight. Then those who have oversight responsibilities at the district level all the way to national will have no choice than to pursue a course of action against such individuals. Let me give you an example. For instance, you go to a community, they say, oh, they are doing it. You heard the president, I don't know if you had the opportunity to listen to him at the National House of Chiefs. When we talk about the involvement of some key stakeholders, it may not necessarily be the person maybe benefiting from the value chain in terms of maybe importation of excavators or commissioning some people to go and dig, or directly being on the ground washing and digging. It may be that you had oversight responsibility. You had a duty, the duty to make sure it does not happen. And that duty has not yielded the result because you failed to stop it, either by yourself or to issue that security or alert of a threat to some other individuals who have capacity to resolve it. It is in that light that they will, you know, bundle, okay, even DCs, everybody, even when we don't have evidence, that if you are here, you ought to have known. So please, if this is the position of the president, and the president, you know, put his presidency and his political fortunes on the line. And evidently, in 2020, we lost most of our seats within the mining community. So we paid the price for it. So it is not a win-win for us.
But did you pay the price because you were consistent in your fight and you lost in these areas? Or there were rumors and strong allegations at the base in some of these areas where some party functionaries of your party, the NPP, were seen to be actively involved in illegal mining, and there were no consequences. And I'll give reference, because in the last 4 to 5 years, there are many incidents that have come up. There was the case of the investigative work done by Anas, Anas, and the name came up, Charles Bessu. The matter went to the CID. There was the outcome for the investigations. But what they did not tell us was who was guilty at the interministerial committee level. That was hanging. Then there's also the video that came up relative to the Minister for Environment, Professor Frimpong Manso, and the video about Party Hiska, which was to explain or to mean that some persons were actively engaged in galamsey as a means of funding the party, the NPP, in its operations in these areas, which meant that it was impossible for those who were complicit to be dealt with. How do you convince Ghanaians, based on even these two instances, that there was a fight going on, your people were not complicit, or if they were complicit, they were dealt with, to give everybody the indication that you were openly and fully against these operations?
Let me be specific.
Yes.
On the issue that you mentioned between Anas and the CID.
Yes.
You remember the reasons that the CID gave for discontinuing the case. They said because they did not get adequate cooperation from the people who had filed the complaints. Because the CID, they don't engage in speculation or something. When you send your case, you have to be actively involved in helping them to be able to put together adequate material to pursue a course of action. And I can only comment based on the report that came out, because that is officially what document is available to me. So if the CID says they had to discontinue because they did not get adequate cooperation from the people who brought the case, then we have to take that. It is also the case that, you know, there were other legal matters involving that particular case, which I believe is still in court. So I don't have a brief on where that case in court relating to this announce issue has traveled to, but to the best of my knowledge, I know why the CID discontinued the case based on their own report.
That's on the announced work. What about the party Yeska?
Yes, but the other thing I am saying is that when in the current regime that we are, one of the most powerful tools that is available to every Ghanaian, including journalists, has to be the passage of the RTI Act.
Right information, okay.
Now you have, as a matter of rights, except where some matters border on national security and our territorial integrity, and a few exemptions, which I don't believe were affected in this case. For you to say, as a good citizen, I demand that something should be done about it, and even take the pain to even petition or insist and use the mechanisms that are available under RTI. We are within the information.
But this matter was in the public eye.
I am saying
and
that
for those who are dealing with illegal mining, they could have taken a clear stance against it without the citizens triggering the RTI
I am
option.
saying that let us exercise what we call principle of collective responsibility, and don't assume that what is of interest to you is of interest to anybody. So I'm saying that even in the face of delayed action, or where you think someone who ought to have acted has not acted, how about everybody else? You need to demand that an action is done.
What about the maximum of leadership is cause, all else is effect, where leadership notices something wrong, takes action, that inspires confidence for all citizens to also follow suit?
I have mentioned to you that the fight, leadership, on the part of leadership, there are multiple things leadership is doing in relation to the fight against Galamsey, including prosecution in some instances. I believe I'll get the opportunity to take you through some of the key ones. But I am saying, when you think or you feel that something ought to have been done and it wasn't done, you also have that right to demand that it is done. And now you have legal document, you have statutes that are backing you, all the way to even the High Court insisting that certain information is given to you for you to get it. So I believe when we think something ought to be done and there is an oversight or anything, it is important that you trigger or, you know, you initiate a process through that.
To get more information?
Yes, to get more information. And not assume that they ought to have known ABC has to be done. Because if you give me the chance, I'm coming to take you through all the things that government is doing if we have it.
After the break, we'll come back and go through that list. And also seek to answer the question as to what people perceive relative to this fight. That has it been more talk than action? Or it has been more action than talk? We'll try and answer that question tonight here on State of Affairs. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Banana, strawberry, chocolate, coconut. What's the fifth one?
Banana.
Banana?
Okay, Dad. Including mocha, cowbell has 5 flavors. Banana, strawberry, chocolate, and coconut. What is the fifth one?
Strawberry.
No.
Are you feeling hot?
Honey, including mocha. Cowbell has 5 flavors: strawberry, banana, chocomalt, coconut. What's the fifth one?
Chocomalt?
Hey!
Coconut!
Hey!
Nutritious and refreshing, Cowbell has a flavor for everyone.
They think I don't know.
Our milk. This advert is FDA approved.
Can he tee up someone in red? And it goes to one! before. I got 5 Champions League. You want to know?
I be the real goat, chairman. I be the real goat. The left magician. The left magician.
Who is the goat? Ghana Jollof or Nigerian Jollof?
Ghana Jollof has no co-equal.
The smell alone. Oh my God. No, that shift. You do the lie. Eh? Now the same stew when they use cook the rice and then they go put them for top.
Hey. You are lying. Ghana Jollof.
Are you busy? Forget everybody, yeah? My guy. Put some respect on the goat.
On the goat. The only goat I know lives in Tama.
Every year, we dey give to you back.
We are talking about BET. I want some Yadiaji face.
Except be the goat, huh?
My guy, he be the goat.
Though our choice of goats may differ in football, music, and jollof, Alomo Bitters always brings us together. Alomo, experience greatness in every moment.
Drink responsibly. Not for sale to persons under 18 and recommended to pregnant women. This advert is FDA approved.
Hey guys, so I got this app. It's called Ayoba. It's a chat app that helps me with beauty tips and the latest sports content. I even use it for my studies. And the good news is, I don't need to use my data bundle because I'm on MTN. Chale, the app just did be.
Ayoba, the all-in-one app that lets you chat, call, read, play, pay, and listen. Use Ayoba at no data cost on MTN. Download Ayoba now.
Thanks for staying with us. You're watching State of Affairs here on GHOne Television. I'm Francis Aban. Tonight, we're in discussion with the Deputy Information Minister, Fatima Abubakar. We're talking about the fight against illegal mining, and also at some point, we'll talk about the Ghanaian economy. Before the break, we were talking about the fight and whether or not it's more talk and less action. There are some who believe that in the areas where galamsey is prevalent, the MMDCs are still at post, the regional ministers are still at post, they are superintending over all these actions without any consequence. So if we say there's action, we're sending soldiers into these areas, and those who are supposed to be leading the security councils in these areas are feeling no pinch of action. Are we really fighting it?
A lot of action is happening on the ground, so I may say that it is more action but less talk. It is also important that some of the things that are happening in the communities will be put out there for people to understand the nature of the fight. Why am I saying that? If you go to some of the mining communities today, they are doing what we call community mining scheme. Already, government has given out some 15 schemes with some 93 concessions to the communities. So you have maybe the Odikro or the chief or the Omahine, you have the youth of the community, they have offices. If you go to Kenyasi today, if you go to Takwa, if you go to Adankwame, if you go to a lot of the communities, you actually find the community mining schemes offices. What that is doing is that, you know, I mentioned to you earlier that some estimated 500,000 people are involved in this illegality.
Yes.
It is not an individual thing. You may mention one or two names that you are speculating, even without evidence, to be involved in it. But when we look at the numbers, it is more complex than maybe just those who are washing, or maybe one or two people we may know, because it's a whole value chain that has been created. With the community mining scheme, it is helping. For instance, if you go to Asante Achim Central and Asante Achim South, like that enclave, they have a mining scheme. And my understanding through some conversations with some of the DCs is that it has really changed a lot. Because without the scheme, people were mining indiscriminately. And mind you, a lot of people in the small-scale industry who are doing the illegality, they don't even know where the gold is. So they will try. If they find nothing, that's it.
But once they're breaking the law, they should be dealt with. So my question is on the MMDCs and the regional ministers.
I'm coming to that.
Why are they at post?
I'm coming to that.
When Galamsey is rife in their communities.
I am coming to that. So the schemes, the 15 schemes that I'm talking about today has employed some 82,800 Ghanaians. But still, we are talking about 500,000. So a lot of people are still doing the illegality. Now, you talked about why are people at post, why are people not punished? The whole operations happen within the confines of law. Punishment, everything. You know, there was an amendment to the Minerals and Mining Act. Now we have the Minerals and Mining Amendment Act 2019, Act 995. If you look at Section 99 of that, it defines how punishments, equipment, everything is supposed to be dealt with. So when it is happening beyond what the goodwill that the president will get from the people, the sensitization to get the support, beyond some of the actions that the president may take in camera, the fact that it may not be known to you or on air or on TV does not mean an action is not being taken.
He has been calling them to scold them.
I am saying there may be a lot of actions that may be in camera because of cohesion. It's a government, of course.
Yes.
Accountability is demanded. A lot of sessions, even with CSOs, a lot of consultation may be happening, which because you haven't seen the cameras or they are on air, assume that they are not happening. But I am telling you that...
I see the argument by those in these communities is this. We look at the water bodies and they are very bad. Debtability is very bad. In fact, I spoke to the Ghana Water Company Limited about a fortnight ago. They say now, if they were using 20 bags of alum to treat water, now they're using 60 bags, which means the alluvial mining or the on our water bodies mining of gold has gotten worse. So whatever the maneuverings are, or shall I say discussions in the background by the president with his appointees, the evidence of the devastation is apparent. I'm sure you've seen the Johnny's documentary of the water bodies that are going around and the level of devastation. How do you convince the average Ghanaian that you're doing a lot behind the scenes, and yet those who are supposed to be leading in these areas, who the president appointed, who can appoint and disappoint, has not moved any of them out of positions?
I'm saying that for all you know, a DC in Elembele, Bonzoke,
yes,
you've heard some of his interviews of efforts in fighting the Galamsey. His efforts alone has not stopped it. It doesn't mean, oh, the president should remove him because Galamsey is happening in his community.
Maybe if we get somebody else, he can do a better job than what he's trying to do.
The fight is a process, and we are using multiple angles to tackle it. It is not an event. So it is not as if, oh, if some businessman has invested in Galamsey because you sack your appointee, he has stopped mining. There are several actions that will lead to the results that we want. As today, as we sit here and from the president and everybody, we have expressed so much concerns as to how things are going. And we want a lot of improvement within the space. Actions are being done. Among other things, in July, you know, they commissioned some speedboats, which will be used to patrol the river bodies. The boats were here. If we don't have river guards who are trained, who will use the boats? It means still you have to look for the Navy to move from Accra and go and do some 2 days and then come back to Accra, and people will go and put champagne back,
but can't
back
we do
on
that
the
too
water.
concurrently?
Now,
why Navy is going and then you train the rest as well?
I am saying when the boats arrived, this government recruited some 100 young Ghanaians who are being trained by the Eastern Command of the Ghana Navy. They are about to pass out. After the passing out ceremony, you can be rest assured that the kind of patrol we want on specific river bodies with these boats will be more frequent, and they will be more equipped to the extent that you will not even get the opportunity to put a champagne on the water.
And these ones we have trained, do they have good integrity backgrounds that they will not become informants for those engaging in the illegal mining?
Maybe you have to ask the Ghana Navy. I don't know their recruitment process, but I trust that for the Gulf of Guinea and all the issues that are, you know, affecting our part of the sea and how they've been able to hold the front lines, our territorial waters against these pirates and other things. I trust that they know, you know, they've earned their stripes. I believe they know what they are doing.
Okay.
So that being said, you know, right now, I've given you just one thing. The boats are there.
Yeah.
When they are commissioned, you think if there are patrols on the water, it will not bring a lot of improvement. It will, but it took a process from procurement to training, a whole lot of things. Another thing that government is doing is that as we speak today, you know, the minister and the Minerals Commission people announced some time ago that they are actually using some technology to introduce equipment tracking. Such that if you import mining equipment all the way from the ports to its final destination, they have trackers, they have other things on it, to the extent that someone is sitting in the control room in Accra, and when you step out of your concession, it is immobilized. I'm not talking about things they say they are going to do. I'm talking about the fact that they have done the piloting, they have given a roadmap and timelines. When they did the press briefing at the Ministry of Information not long ago, they gave us the roadmap. By the end of this year, as we speak, they are, you know, working on a control room at Minerals Commission. And now that the piloting is done and all that, it means as soon as the control room is ready, in course of the year, the law that they are using to effect this tracking system will take effect. That will also, to some extent, affect outcomes. When it comes to bringing in equipment.
Even on that, that's what you're trying to do going forward. What about the excavators that go missing? Have we found them?
I am saying that in terms of...
No, I get you on what you're doing now. But for what's gone missing that people have questions about, have we found the missing excavators? And who took them? And what happened to them?
I think the Minerals Commission and the Ministry of Lands have given several interviews to account. Some are even saying that the kind of numbers that people thought were in stock were exaggerated. Actually, they may not be the exact numbers. And that also happened. You know it happens. So other matters that border on petitions that were sent to the police and matters that border on investigation, you know, unless there is a determination by a court, I cannot speculate or assume and say, okay, this person should have been asked to brought this. I think those are information, because you remember some petitions were sent to the service. These are some of the issues that if we are able to follow up from the police service and other agencies who are involved in prosecution, they will be able to give us further and better particulars. But I am saying that, you know, I've mentioned just two things, and you know, indeed, some actions are being taken. But it's not, as I said, because it's a process and not an event, it's not all the results that we are seeing right now. But I know even as we speak, some of the results are being seen in communities where they are doing this community mining scheme. That being said, there is another matter that I want to bring to your attention. You know, a week ago, I followed a delegation by the Lands Minister, Honorable Samuel Abujinapo, and his deputies and staff and management from their ministry and the Minerals Commission to go on some site visits where the security agencies are, you know, conducting business and doing some of these patrols. We also had the opportunity to have side meetings. The minister met people at lorry stations, we went to classrooms and so on and so forth. And then a gentleman approached me and said, Madam, the military people have sacked me. But let me tell you, where I was working, it's a concession that the Chinese people left like 7 years ago. It's an old place. But we have something else that we do. He mentioned some local term that have escaped me. that they go back there just to rewash what has already been devastated. Because according to the experts, they are saying that when some lands are destroyed at the level of these surface mining, the way they do the things, and there is no reclamation to at least bring it to a level where it will be easier to restore vegetative cover, it takes from 50 to 100 years to do such restoration. So it's like putting a glass here and saying everybody should put a drop of water in it. The first person may not have anything to worry, but someone behind the queue, it will get to their turn where it will be obvious that even if just a quarter of a drop is added, it will spill and they will say, okay, you did it all. So it is devastations that have happened a long time ago, and cumulatively, including what is being done now, that we are seeing how, now it's like you see hectares. Even if they started with a plot, now it's going to extend where you are seeing a lot of them. It is also important to know that as part of the strategies or things the Minerals Commission and Ministry of Lands is doing to make sure they resolve this issue, they have reclaimed about 20% of the Galamsey sites.
20%?
Yes.
20 out of 100?
Yes.
That's a fifth?
Yes. But it is important to put that out there because, Francis, even in Accra, if you buy a plot of land, one plot, I'm not even talking about two, half plot, and it's in a low-lying area, and they say, okay, you have to fill it, it's not small money. If the level of devastation that, I don't know if you visited some of the sites, but even what you have seen in documentaries and in view, if we talk about what it takes
to get it back
in terms of commitment to get it back in the situations that we are,
it's significant.
It is significant.
Okay, I have a few questions to ask. This fight has been on, at least under the president's watch, for 5 going on 6 years. Do we know, or does the president know, does the national security minister know who the masterminds of this entire illegal mining business are? Do we know who they are?
National security, definitely. I can't speak on their behalf. I don't know security
But does the president know who they are?
Their level, no, they will be briefing him and all that.
Yeah.
I'm not in a position to know. I'm not in cabinet. So I'm not in a position to know what brief national security is holding. But I know the whole operations, of course, it will border on intelligence and other matters. But as I said, the interventions that are being made that is meant to be public will be made public. But especially if you are doing investigations that will border on prosecuting people and all that, you don't run to the media and bring all your trails and, all your tracking and
big jaw drop arrests yet of masterminds.
You said
all
yes.
you've seen are those who are at the sites who are mining.
You said yet.
Yes.
So we don't know.
Yet.
Yes, you said
if arrests
yet.
have been made, we will have heard about it.
I mentioned that some arrests have been made.
Yes.
You go on and
you I'm saying the masterminds. Have we arrested them? Yes.
What do you mean by mastermind? Maybe a young man of 24 years has, in some community, is pursuing his money and has gotten some machine from welders and is digging in some bush.
But on the scale of the problem, there are those who be at the very top.
I am saying this is a problem that is coming from the contribution of 500,000 Ghanaians.
Yes, that's those who are working there.
500,000.
But there'll be financiers. There'll be those who are buying all the millions of dollars in equipment.
If you talk about a mastermind, that's in there is an individual who is empowering these 500,000 people to do it. I don't have any knowledge of such individual with such capacity to mobilize 500,000 people in an organized crime. But I'm saying that the aspect of the work that is meant to be public, that is yielding results, which we need consensus, that is being done. But the ones that border on security, maybe for some reasons it will be premature to expect that.
2 quick points before our next break.
Okay.
The latest work done by, and I have to reference because it is their work, by GHOneNews, pointed among the many other areas they went to, Akonta mining, working just on the shoulder of the Tano River, which has been badly polluted. It turns out, per the works or the investigations done, that a company in question, Akonta Mining, belongs to the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the NPP, Chairman Wontumi. What is government's position on this matter?
Okay, first of all, government's position is definitely the statement that the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources and also the the Minerals Commission has issued. So if I have any reference, I will just refer you to the
of them stopping the operations.
The release that came on 3rd October.
Yes.
Not just stopping their operations. Look at the last paragraph. Look at the last paragraph of that press release, which came out on 3rd October 2022. Yes. And with your kind permission,
sure,
I will
go ahead and read it.
And I quote that, and for the avoidance of any doubt, Akonta Mining Limited has no mining lease, mineral rights, and or permit to undertake any mining operations in the Tano Nimri Forest Reserve. And steps are currently being undertaken to enforce the minister's directive issued on 30th September 2022. They mentioned about steps that are being taken.
For the lease?
No, for necessary action to be taken in this regard.
Yes.
And this is an official document that they've put in the public domain. I think if they were not doing anything, they won't just come and, issue
so they
a
don't have the
statement.
mining lease, they are not supposed to be operating there. Are we going to see arrests of these persons?
No, please don't miss the issues. Akonta Mining Company, according to the same statements that I've referred you to, they have some lease in Samraboy.
Yes.
That is not the matter of contention. They have leases that predate 2011. Leases that are older than the administration of President Akufo-Addo. Yes. Are you getting the point? So this,
but if they are being seen to be mining on the shoulder of the river, that is significant for action.
I am saying that the bone of contention is an operation based on some videos that were in circulation that they have entered the forest reserve, which is in contention now. And this is some activities that are or information that have been brought out within a week. Within that week, we have received 2 press releases from the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources and also from the Minerals Commission just 2 or 3 days ago to assure us that actions are being taken. I'm a lawyer. Even if you want to take action against somebody, investigations are done. You go down there to gather material, know your course of action. It's against a company, or you are lifting the veil to, pursue criminal acts. And all these decisions will come after, some work has been done in
so
terms
we have
of,
to be patient and wait.
So I trust whatever they have on paper here. I have no cause to think otherwise beyond what the Minerals Commission has put out. So that is government's position, that the minister, as a matter of fact, issued the directive that they are not issuing any, they are not issuing any prospecting or reconnaissance license to any forest. And the minister, as a matter of record, has said it publicly that since that directive, nothing of that sort has been done. Of course, there are mining companies who had concessions in forest. Newmont at what do you call it? Kenya say and in Totroso area is not a forest that they operate in. So of course, exemptions are there. Some people had their leases already. We have Giadek at Nyinahini bauxite. And if you want to, it's funny that some people also say that, is Akufo-Addo giving forest? Nyinahini, is it not a forest? Was there not even an arrangement to give the concession to a Ghanaian in the past to work within the forest? So I'm saying that the minister has mentioned, and I believe so to be true, that since the directive, no such prospecting or reconnaissance license has been given to anybody.
Issue at a time. Okay.
Yes.
Last question before we go for a break. The president meeting, the chief said, let's not politicize the illegal mining fight. He meets DCs, among many other things, says, let's win this fight against illegal mining so we can break the 8. Is he not politicizing the very thing he's asking us not to politicize?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Not at all?
Not at all.
Okay,
Let me explain this to you. The context of the president's engagement is very important. When he met the chief, he told them that 80% of the lands of Ghana are in the custody of stools or families, mainly chiefs.
Yes.
Even the 20% that are under public and vested lands division are lands that the state acquired from the same chiefs. So it's a fight that if you don't get the consensus of people who have actual authority, I'm not talking about just perceived authority or maybe because the 1992 Constitution has stated that all rights in the land and all that. When you go to the grounds, there are other things that will show you that some other people have concurrent authority over certain places, that it is good that you get their support for that cause. Look at the context of meeting the DCs. The president has also mentioned that we have suffered losses, we have paid prices, we have paid with a lot of constituencies that used to be our strongholds. we have paid prices, all in the name of this fight. And it has become the case where the conversation has been so politicized that, you know, there is a video which I have watched on your platform or on GHOne TV about the former president, John Dramani Mahama, saying that when he is re-elected, he will grant amnesty to all Galamsey operators who have been imprisoned, and he knows they have regretted, so he will bring them back to come and continue to do their work. So the politicization is said that it puts some gamble, or, you know, political gamble as to, okay, fortunes are tied to it, but I'm saying we have already suffered losses.
Okay.
For the president.
But in that context, when he spoke to the chief, he said, let's not make it politicized.
Yes.
In meeting the DCEs, did he have to say that we should win this fight just so we break the eight?
It is just ancillary. The reward sometimes.
But it was heard, and it has been taken in context.
I'm saying that there are cause and effects. Immediately, the effect that we want from this fight is to build a consensus and get the public support. But if through our good work the people will reward us, there is nothing wrong with that.
That's fine. Okay. That'll be the point where I go for another break. But may I remind you that this show is brought to you with a kind of association with MTN. MTN is everywhere you go. And as I said, your conversations and also your browsing doesn't need to end because you run out of data or out of airtime. With *506# you can be able to borrow data and also borrow airtime to be able to finish that call and also to finish and close that business deal using the internet. So MTN has that for you. With MTN Extra Time, dial *506# to enjoy the benefits of that. Last break, and when we return, we'll wrap up our show tonight. Stay with us.
William Kofi Nti, the CEO of ADFA.
Thanks for staying with us. You're watching State of Affairs here on GHOne Television. Our special guest tonight is the Deputy Minister for Information, Fatima Abubakar. As we're ending our conversation tonight, may I remind you that the show is brought to you with a kind of sponsorship of MTN. MTN is everywhere you go. As I said, your conversation don't need to end. Your business deal that you're closing on the internet doesn't have to end. You can borrow extra time on MTN, dialing *506# follow the prompt and get to borrow airtime or even data to end what you have to complete, and then you can replenish later when you have to during the day. So in wrapping up our conversation tonight, the opposition NDC today at a news conference said the president has lost every moral right to speak about fighting against illegal mining because his actions and the actions towards dealing with it have not been forthright, have not been strong enough. And that if he acts a bit more, the tough decisions, if they are taken, then the national consensus he is looking for, he'll be able to achieve. What's your response?
Tell us something. I listened to the press briefing on, I think that was on Ecosystem this afternoon. And I was like, the director or communications officer of the NDC and the party, based on that presentation they brought, he was just a walking contradiction. Let me put it that way, for want of a better word. Let me tell you something. When this issue came, you know, he was mentioning GHOne as the symbol of war, the president's failure and all that. And Francis, it was an eye-opener for me as an individual and everybody in Ghana to know that since the year 2005, some 50,000 Chinese have been repatriated from Ghana. 50,000, not one. So if one of them, of their kind, is repatriated for doing illegal mining, which the others were also repatriated for, it seems that has been the practice or convention under successive governments, or there was like a pattern or a template to sit on a podium and talk about someone that your government arrested 3 times and released. You can check records from Ashanti region in 2016 that even the deputy Ashanti regional minister at that time led an operation to arrest her, and then they said, the regional minister said he didn't know about the operation, so they left her and gave her her 4 excavators back. Listen, no, a practice, a norm, something that they had done up to today. At least I'm mentioning 2005. So this is a norm, a practice that has traveled through 4 successive governments. In
terms of repatriation?
Yes, that has happened. The person has come back. When the person came back, what has happened in the matter? The person has been on remand. The issue is in court. The AG, you know, it was withdrawn for the AG to, you know, refile.
There was no prosecutor,
yes. So now, action is being taken. Whatever the general public wants or whatever the public is calling for should be vis-a-vis what the law has allowed us to do in that regard. That is, if someone is found guilty in relation to Section 99 of Act 995. That is the only way. Ghana is a lawful country. That is the only way to deal with recalcitrants or people against whom some similar allegations have been made. You cannot, in the face of the things I have said right now and based on evidence, and I mentioned they can challenge me everywhere if they have any records to the contrary that even under JM, that GHOne was arrested in Ghana for 3 times. What did they do to her? Did they imprison her? What happened? What was their course of action on records?
But we also heard of Safo recently say that Aisha was released because of certain bilateral reasons.
And I am saying it is not an exception. It seemed to be the norm from 2005 that I have mentioned that from the immigration records. I have heard from a reliable source that some 50,000 were repatriated. So what if those repatriations were all based on such a bilateral arrangement? Now, if the person has come back, of course, all the laws that we have has some level of, you know, public interest and public policy considerations. And in the public interest, if we are talking about a matter that borders on our, you know, our national sovereignty, security, and other things, and this time around that won't happen. They have decided to prosecute, and the necessary action is being taken. Is it the case that he should turn around and come and seek to, you know, just paying the government black, thinking there is any political dividends in, you know, coming to give half-truths or lie about facts that have happened over the years? You know, in course of my presentation, I didn't even want to mention anybody's name, but for you raising the press briefing, because I have heeded to the call of the president and the minister that we should depoliticize the conversation.
Okay, that's fine. So we'll have to leave it here for now. But I thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having
and for joining us. The Deputy Information Minister Fatima Abubakar joining us here on State of Affairs as we've dealt largely on the matter of Galamsey. On another day, we might invite her to talk about the economy and also how we're looking to rebuild from where we are now. That's the deal for us tonight. Thanks for watching. Duvet is up next. Good night.